There are other marking menus besides the pick marking menu, the left mouse button. The transformation, I like to explain how to transform the object, meaning moving the object, rotating the object, or scaling the object. And in particular, I like to explain like how to invoke those commands using the marking menu, and also combine many of those operations with the snapping capability, snapping the objects to a particular point references or grids, or on any of the visible curves and lines along the object. So here, let's say if you are have the objects here, and if you would like to move the object around, you just have to choose the pick object, left mouse button with the marking menu, shift control left mouse button, and then shift control middle mouse button upwards will let you choose the move operation. So here I'm able to move this object along, and then also if I simply touch and drag another object, it will switch the selection to that object here. So this is a very convenient, fast function to say, hey, I just want to drag this around, just touch and drag objects. And then basically just clicking and dragging the object will deselect anything else and then select whatever object that you touch. So this is a very fast way to work. Now, there are more detailed capabilities with regards to moving an object. There are something called constraints. Constraints meaning that you are limiting the object's movement to particular directions. So in perspective window, movement of your object is limited to, it's constrained to the X, Y, or Z axis direction. So you can see that on the grid here, the red arrow here is the X direction. And then the green, it's hard to see, but you can also see down here. Green is the Y direction, and Z is upward direction. Now, each of your mouse button, the left mouse button, will let you move the object in the X-axis direction in the perspective window. And the middle mouse button will let you move the object in the Y-axis direction, like this way. That's the Y-axis. And right mouse button will let you move the object in the Z direction, which is up and down in height. So those are the constraints available with your mouse buttons. Left mouse button X direction, middle mouse button Y direction, and right mouse button Z direction. Now, when you there comes a time like when you need to work in views other than perspective window, namely the orthographic window. So if you switch over to orthographic views, like if you minimize the perspective window, well, actually we need to choose the let's see. So let's go to layouts, all windows. Alt W is the shortcut key for that. So I will use that shortcut key, Alt W, and it will produce the orthographic windows for you. So in the orthographic views, I believe that these are very large objects, so I need to back up to frame them. All of the orthographic windows are moving at the same time. Oh, by the way, this view navigation is similar to a perspective window. In the perspective window, it was a Shift Alt left mouse button for tumble, middle mouse button for track, and right mouse button for dolly. So in the orthographic views, you cannot tumble because it's a flat view, but middle mouse button for tracking in the orthographic view, and then right mouse button for dollying is available. Now, these orthographic windows are synced, meaning that they zoom in and out and track. And I find that to be not so useful. Sometimes it comes in handy, but I rarely ever use it. So I recommend that you disable the Windows Sync, and that is Windows Display, Windows Sync. Okay, so just turn that off. So that way you can have each of the orthographic views have your own areas to focus on. So that is actually a better way to work. That's my preference. So if you are working on a particular object, you can select the cube, for example, and then do Alt L on each of these windows here. Just do right mouse click to select a different view, and then you are focusing in on the cube. If you want to switch over to the cone, just pick that and then do Alt L, and then right mouse click on another window, and then right mouse click on another window, and then do Alt L for each of those views. So that's how I work, and then I find that to be quite productive. So what I'm doing here is that I'm doing shading on each of these windows. I just did that, but those kind of shading on and off and toggle grid on and off is available with the when you use the Shift Control right mouse button marking menu. So here shade. So here, since the this view is active, I can turn on the shading on and off, and then same for this view here. Okay. And then same thing here, shade on and off, and then perspective view. So when you get used to it, you can just say, oh, it's my right mouse button right to the east. So it's like you can get pretty fast. So now I got a little bit sidetracked with other things, but I wanted to explain to you the constraints. So once again, in the perspective window, if you want to move your object and constrain to the axis direction, you use your left mouse button. So this is consistent with the red arrow here, axis here. This is the axis direction, and then middle mouse is Y direction, and then the right mouse button is the Z direction, up and down. Okay. Now in the orthographic views, that constraint is a little bit different. The constraint movement in orthographic views are like this. So let's say, for example, if you're in the right view here, if you are moving your object, if you use your left mouse button, you have all left, right, up and down free movement in that view. So it's a two-dimensional, like a free movement. Your object is limited to that flat plane, but you have free movement in all directions, up and down, sideways. So that is the left mouse button. But if you use your middle mouse button here, if you notice my cursor is drawing a circle, but my object, the cone, is moving only horizontal direction. So that's what happens if you use the middle mouse button to drag around in the orthographic view. The movement is limited to horizontal direction in that orthographic view window. So that's the middle mouse button. And guess what the right mouse button does? The right mouse button, yes, you're correct. The constraint is vertical direction movement in that orthographic view. So once again, if you observe my cursor here, I'm dragging it like a circle. I'm going left, right, and up and down. And object only moves up and down, vertical direction in that orthographic view. And if you switch over to another view here, like the top view, for example, then my middle mouse button will limit the movement to horizontal direction in this view, okay? It's not like x-axis, y-axis. It's a relative direction to that's particular to this view. So that's middle mouse button, and then this is my right mouse button here. Okay, so it's these are the constraint movements, and they come in very, very super handy. These are very powerful, effective constraint movements that you will see as we move along. They are very useful, and then just speed up your workflow in an amazingly fast way. Okay, so that is the transformation of objects with constrained axis movement in the perspective view, and also the horizontal and vertical constraints in the orthographic view.